Call budget meeting of council to order for Monday, February 27th, 2023. Approval of the agenda. Councillor Julik.
That the February 27th, 2023 budget council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. Consent agenda. Recommendation. Councillor Julik.
That all items in the Monday, February 27th, 2023 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. All in favor? I'm going to bring forward 3.2 for discussion. Seconder, Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. First of all, I mean, it's great to see when we have community representatives write us emails. I forwarded it on to staff. Staff printed it out and added it to our budget discussion as it's an item that a resident has put forward asking councils for consideration in regards to an indoor walking track. Now, I know Councillor Norbury, you had brought forward in our workshop in regards to an indoor, I'm not going to say it's a Kwanzaa, but more or less that concept for indoor soccer and stuff like that. Maybe you want us to talk to that. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. It's definitely a bit of an ambitious project, but the idea behind it is that we would have a soccer pitch with a walking track surrounding it, and then we can sort of build off of that. Like there's other options that we could look at, but from what I understand, it's a practice that you see out in Ontario, and it would be something that we could do, but I think like anything, it might be a costly venture, so I think it's something that we should be looking at and get something ready, some ideas ready in case like a large capital grant comes along that we don't need for some other critical infrastructure. Beyond that, I know we looked at, last council, we looked at a indoor walking track above the curling rink, which was a costly venture that would lose utilization of the curling rink at the same time. So, we did look at that. Like, I know walking tracks are something we definitely need in the winter time, but we just need to have the right fit for the community.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I 100% agree there. Maybe having have a study done, or we need to have a report done in regards to it. One other thing is I know staff, and I know it's been, to me, advertised. I mean, I won't say it's an indoor walking track, but we do open up the arena and stuff like that for access during the day. My belief is for walking. Okay, so we do have something somewhat available. It's obviously not a track. It's back and forth and around the corner. So, okay. I guess maybe when we're talking in regards to budget, maybe we can try to fill this in the community center or something, see if maybe we can just get a report. I'm not sure what council thinks about it, but it'd be nice to know with where we live, if something like the idea that Councillor Norbury had brought in forward is something that would work in our area and what kind of costs we would be looking at is my thought. Because I know when we looked at the walking a track above the curling rink and kind of over the top of the rink at one point, it kind of came out that area was the idea. I think it was quite costly, and there was some concerns, I believe, in regards to weight capacity, I believe. So, Councillor Julik.
I think instead of what I think, okay, let me start over. I think that if we're going to be looking at this, I think we need to look at a full package. We have ideas that we want to have some stuff for youth. We look at that we want to have maybe some pickleball courts and maybe volleyball courts. Like we want all the things. So instead of looking at this piecemeal, look at something wholehearted, like that it be something that is a full project rather than a piecemeal project. And maybe that means another building, maybe that means expanding the building we have, I don't know. But I think to do it one thing at a time, I think we would be working against ourselves, and maybe this is something we can ask at a town hall You know, we had the OCP plan, maybe we can work it in with that. I think lots of different things, but I think if we try to do it pieces at a time, it's just gonna get more expensive, and then we're trying to adapt or accommodate rather than maybe just look at a full purpose center. I know the walking track at the Aventive Center was really nice to be on. But that incorporates because there's lots of other things at that building. So that's what I would like to see if we're gonna go down that road. I would rather look at a big picture thing that could capture a few different pieces rather than just one. Because I agree with Ms. Alexander, I think that our population would definitely welcome an indoor type of track. We have a really dedicated folks in town that are physical, like to stay busy, and sometimes the weather doesn't allow for that. So that's what I would like to see rather than piecemeal on it.
Yeah, and I fully agree, and that's why I said report, because I would hope that we would capture all the stuff that staff has brought forward previously in regards to the other things, whether it's volleyball courts and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of mentioned as a report. That way we get a whole concept of it. All right, I guess maybe just in that, I'll put a motion forward that staff reaches out to Heather Alexander, let them know that council received it, discussed it, and that we want to make sure that she is aware that we do allow indoor walking within the community center around our arena until we can investigate this further. Seconder, Councilor Norbury. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Okay, new business. Draft 2023 capital and special projects. Report dated February 27th, 2023 from Interim CAO, Director of Corporate Services regarding draft 2023 capital and special projects for discussion. Recommendation, please. Councillor Julik.
That council received the draft 2022, should that not read 2023 capital budget for discussion? Yes.
Seconder. Councilor Norbury. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Staff want to give any kind of an overview before we start again? Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, we have had our budget specialist working with us, working with Council and with staff to bring these capital and special projects to you forward for you tonight. So, and she is waiting in the wings and available to answer and to speak to anything that that you feel is appropriate, or if Council has questions. So, back to Council.
Perfect. Okay.
Oh, she wants to speak.
Yep. Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Ms. Weiner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention that you can see what the percent increases are as a summary on the one tab that's Schedule A. And as council makes decisions, I'll be making them on an Excel spreadsheet and can provide updates to what that percentage of tax increase would be as we go through this process. So feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Councillor Julik.
How are you wanting to go through this? Should we just go through kind of top to bottom? Like, or do you want me to start with questions and then somebody put up their hand if they had something prior to that, or? how do you
Yeah,
think
so
is the
I
best way?
actually just thought of starting at Schedule A
Okay,
and working our way through it like we did the previous time. That way we're not jumping through sheets if
that sounds good to
council's
me.
good with that.
Yep.
Okay. So starting with Schedule A. I'm
I feel-
assuming that's all of the listed community department projects.
So Schedule A, like, that's what I understood. Yes, that just, if we approved everything, Schedule A is what it would cost. Correct? All right.
Ms. Torval? Yes, thank you. Okay, so Schedule B. If anybody has, Councillor Julik?
So on page, sorry, nothing for Schedule B.
Okay.
I'm looking at Schedule C. I'll stop talking.
Okay, anything in regards to Schedule B from council? Ms. Torval?
Natalie had her hand up.
Your worship, I just wanted to mention, it'll help going through the future spreadsheets. Anything that's just not highlighted, as I've mentioned, are carry forward projects. They've carried forward from the previous year, and the funding associated comes with it. As well, we've got the red, green, and yellow as put on the previous sheets, so that goes by the ranking that was utilized by council. I just thought giving that an idea, so that's sort of the framework for the rest of these spreadsheets.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, seeing nothing in regards to Schedule B, Schedule C. Councillor Julik.
I know that the Saddle Club Crown Rural Residential Development carry forward. I know that there's no cost to that. It just says initial subdivision development will commence, and I'm concerned that I can't tell if there's a cost, like if that's just, we aren't going to be the developers is the bottom line, is what I'm wanting to know.
No, that's not, I'll go right to staff, but my understanding, this is just to initiate the process of the purchase. Once we own the land, then if as we go to get out to rural properties, to me, we are not the builders. But Ms. Torval?
That is correct, Mayor. That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on Schedule C? Councillor Julik.
So on infrastructure residential development phase 2, it's a 0.27% increase to taxation, so there's definitely some funds involved there. I'm just wondering, what does shovel-ready new housing options be prepared to partner with developers and funding options? I'm just curious as to what that would entail.
Okay, Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Am I on? Thank you, Ms. Finnegan, if you could speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Basically, being shovel-ready means spending some funds on doing environmental overviews, planning and zoning reports, market studies, evaluation. So it would be having something ready for the market and then go out and look for developers that would want to partner or bring business into town. So definitely reiterating that we are not the developers. We're just getting ready for market and being shovel ready. If a big funding opportunity arose or a developer came through with funding, we would be ready to go, if council wished.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. This is something that was brought up at UBCM this year about what some of the larger cities are doing to assist in their development issues with housing. It's to help reduce costs, reduce wait times. It's more attractive to development companies to have everything ready for them, and they've identified this as things that they want, and I think it's definitely something that we should be doing to encourage housing development in Tumbler Ridge to have it streamlined. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norbury. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm wondering, is there any potential that, depending on the development, that this would change? Like you're doing work for nothing, essentially, because you'll have to redo it if they wanted to do a higher density or commercial versus residential or something like that. Like, do we know what they actually want, and are we able to do it in a broad enough way where we're not going to have to redo this work at some point?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll defer to Ms. Finnegan.
Thank you. A exact plan on what we want to see out there. So we'll start off the first move as council and the community, giving indications of what we want to see on those parcels of land that we own. Should a developer come through and want to do something different, at that point we would bring it back to council. So it's not going to be set on stone. We're going to do as much prep work as we can to a certain point, keep checking in with council and the community to make sure that what we're planning in those pockets of land align with the OCP and what we want to see in town.
Councillor Hoffman, any follow-up?
I guess I speak my mind like I usually do. I just don't know how much this is going to save at this point in time, because I don't understand if is there even a developer that's knocking on our door to do something at this point? Do we need to do this now, and is this going to help in the next year or 2 years or 4 years or 10 years? Like, what benefit are we doing by doing this right now?
Yeah, so I guess I'll give my thoughts there, I guess, or why I would support it. It is for that to be ready, so whether that's part of the 50-acre woods for the next housing project. I mean, we see that we are in a bit of a housing crisis when it comes to rentals. Very few properties up for sale at this time. With other industry, right now, obviously, Canoe Coal is taking over the tech site. So they're going to move over from Wolverine, but it doesn't mean that we don't have other mining operations that could or may come on board. And I think what happens there, that could be, we don't know the time sensitivity on that. And I think it being ahead of it and having that plan out there, so if it does come to fruition, whether PRC was to sell, HD Mining comes on board, we're prepared to get houses built. Not by us, obviously, but by.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. To Councillor Hoffman's points, we have an opportunity to learn from, areas that have a higher demand, and we're sort of lagging behind to catch up, because I believe that we need to look 5-10 years out in the future, and if we want to plan for success and expansion, I believe that this is one of the things you talk to any large city that's having housing issues beyond ours would say, anything you can do to help speed up the process is you should be investing in now. And it's better to have it now versus, now we need something, now we need to develop it later. It's a proactive approach. So, yeah, thank you.
Councilor Clickash.
Yes, Your Worship. In the past, I've never really seen a problem. There's been developers that have come in and tried to do projects here. What they've done is they've just supplied all the information that was required, passed it to council. Council approved it within a week, 10 days, and gave the development permit, and it was ready to go. So I don't understand what this shovel-ready means, because shovel-ready to me means that all the services are in and everything's ready to go. The lots are already built or surveyed, and you're ready to go with housing. But in this case, I don't know what shovel-ready means.
Mr. Orville.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I will refer to Ms. Finnegan. Give some clarification on shovel-ready.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I think shovel-ready may obviously mean different things in different communities depending on the density of housing and where their services are. The intent and my understanding of where we need to get this project to at least just ready to be on the shelf is to ensure that we know what the expectations are, where we need to take the services. There was an instance, I think last year, when there was a land sale that came up, and there was still a lot of questions about who was to bring the services to the land. So we want to just make sure that our information and marketing package has got all of those questions ready to go. Whether it costs as much as what we've got in the budget or not, I'm not sure. Again, it could be just some steps that we get done this year, see where the demand is and what developers are coming to the door, where we can market. So really it's an information gathering, getting us as close to being shelf or shovel ready should a developer come to the door and be ready to go to meet that demand.
Follow-up, Councilor Clickash, you're good.
It's just when you're actually going to put blueprints out as far as the layout of the lots, or what?
Mr. Orville?
Thank you. Ms. Finnegan?
At this point, no. So we would probably do this similar to what has happened previous to when 100 acres was 100 acres and now it's 50 acres. There was some surveying done out there with some drawings and indications of what lot sizes might be there. So we really want to repeat that exercise on 50 acres, Upper Bench, and when Saddle Club comes on board, just to see do some initial exploration of how many lots we can get in those areas, what the services would cost us, and start preparing if we need to bring those services to those lots, what it's going to cost us in capital, and be prepared for those budgetary conversations before we get a developer on our front doorstep.
Follow, Councillor Klikash.
Your worship, in the past, I've had times where you got an interface. In other words, you got property on Peace River Crescent, in that area, and all of a sudden you want to put a big townhouse project behind it. And this causes problems, big problems. A lot of people don't want that there. They want the density right there at their doorstep. So, I mean, this could be an issue. So I think we should look at it, but I don't think we should go any further than that right now.
Okay. So I have Councillor Julick and Councillor Norbury. I'll just make a comment. So as we're going through this, and maybe I should have done it at the beginning, and my apologies. If there's an item in here that we do not want to see within the budget, we can have a discussion, just an open discussion like we have been. At a point, if somebody wants something removed off Schedule C, let's see what number we're at or what letter we're on, we just need to put a motion on the floor that we want to remove it, get a seconder, and then we can debate it. Not that we can't just keep discussing it, but if somebody feels that they don't want to see an item go forward, that's how we'll either remove it or accept it by a vote of council. Councillor Julick.
Well, I see some of the, I see the benefits of this. I see the language in here is problematic as what shovel-ready means for some and what shovel-ready means for others are two different things. And what my expectation is around zoning and identifying places. But anytime we are once responsible for putting in services, I am not in favor unless somebody came to me with a pretty good point. So I'm not sure at this point that I'm prepared to take it off because I think it's important that we have something ready in the ECDev department that says, okay, these are places that we have available for, like if somebody came and wanted to develop. I just wouldn't want to get too specific into what the district would be prepared to spend. Like I think that the amounts that have been suggested are fairly like they're small enough that I don't think it's about putting services in. Like that's not what part of that proposal is. I just think that we maybe need to just I don't know how important the language is in there, but I do know when I saw shovel ready, I was thinking it was a bit more than what Miss Finnegan once Miss Finnegan said it was just to kind of get the zoning and make sure we were okay there. So I don't know if we need to change that or just make sure we know what our expectations are.
Okay. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I just wanted to make a comment to Councillor Klikash. Creating shovel-ready projects doesn't change the zoning that we've set out in our community. Like we've done that and we can change that, but the concern about adding townhouses behind Peace River Crescent, you know, that's a zoning situation. Like, doesn't matter what we create in this shovel-ready, in these new housing options. They would have to come to us to ask for a zoning change because that's a zoning thing, right? Not a this thing. This won't override our current zoning choices, and yeah, that's the only thing.
Thank you. Councillor Klikash.
Well, it's really not a zoning thing. It's a development thing. So if somebody comes in and wants to develop it, you have to make the decision whether you want that particular item in that area, right? So I mean, to zone the thing now for building would be improper because you're not going to get those kind of people in here. They want to see where they can go with their development. And that's what developers do all the time. And then you fix the zoning to suit them if you still want them there. That's the way it works.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Julick, on your question, I guess we're concerned about wording. I don't know if we need to change it. I mean, I can ask staff that, but I think listening to staff, the idea is to have this report generated, get some details and information out there, and then move forward from there. If one, if it was needed and the developer comes forward, to me is, but I'll confirm that with staff because I don't want to leave that out. Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, that is correct. This is just to get things, to have things ready.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion in regards to Schedule C? Councillor Julik.
So then the next one is investment strategy that can help attract new businesses. So I guess I'm just looking to see what kind of ideas you might have for that. Like, what does that look like?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will defer to This is our project or budget.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So an investment strategy, we've had one done previously for Tumblr before, and it's pretty well outdated now. It finished up in, I think, 2020 or 21. I've gone through that strategy. Myself and Jesse and the team have looked at what's been done and what hasn't been done. So this investment strategy would be a new, revised and refreshed version of that. And by investment, we would mean what do we need to, again, that readiness piece, what do we need to have ready in town to attract a major tourism business to come in? Or what would we need to attract another industry to come and start up here, whether that's manufacturing or renewables? What do we need to be ready? Things like housing, childcare, healthcare, all of those parts of the puzzle are part of being ready for investment. So if we had somebody right now who wanted to bring in an industry that was going to bring in another 500 employees and they all had to live in town, I would have to say that we're probably not ready. So it gives us a checklist and a roadmap of the steps that we would need to take to become more ready in the future.
Follow-up, Councillor Julik?
So I guess my concern with this is my experience with the last strategy that was done is when we bring somebody in from outside, they don't have a feel for Tumbler Ridge. And for me, I feel like people who live here and do business here, whether it's Canoe-Macole, like even if it's like our big industries or our smaller businesses, I feel like we have a better handle on what that looks like. So I guess my concern is if we're going to do this, is this bringing somebody in from out of town, or is this something that we could manage more in-house? It's frustrating for me to look at some of the reports and see things repeated that we already know in town. So, like, for me, it's like it's spending money to have somebody tell us something that we already know. Like, I understand the idea of having something a little bit more ready, but I wonder if that means we need to spend a whole bunch of money on it, or if we just need to have some staff release, or staff release isn't necessarily the word, but have some money there for staff to be able to go out and put some food out, because that's how you get people in Tumbler Ridge to come to a meeting, or have the space. I just feel like I would move to remove this if it was to hire somebody outside.
Okay, I'll get clarity. I mean, I'm not sure if it was internal or external. Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Council. Generally, when a strategy is undertaken, it is contracted out, and there is a consulting firm that is employed to do that. And again, generally, there are engagement periods for the public and anyone else to participate. And I don't know if they've gone around to businesses before, but that, it's usually open for businesses to have provide comment and what they would like to see, or not only what they would like to see, but what they see as the negatives or the cons, and pros and cons, sort of. So that's generally when a strategy is undertaken. It's a big thing, and I can say that as of the moment, we're not equipped to undertake that, so.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, any more discussion in regards to that? Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Julik.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to reinforce Councillor Julik's position. I don't think we're ready for this. I think we already know that our housing situation is in really rough shape. Attracting dozens or hundreds company is just not in the works right now. I'd be more than happy to revisit in a year or two when we get our housing stuff done. But for right now, I tend to agree that I think we're not ready for the answers that this is going to give us.
Thank you. Councillor Julik?
I'd like to make a motion that we remove the investment strategy piece from capital budget.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Hoffman, discussion. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. Whereas I don't disagree with what other councillors are saying, my thoughts go to, if we're looking to attract new business, does it make sense that we're asking the current community on how to attract it? Wouldn't it make sense that we have an outsider take an outside look? Maybe they can, I would assume that they're a professional, they could tell us the new trends, the new successes of how to bring in new businesses. That's my only thought. So I do see there is some opportunity here, but I didn't have any experience with the last one on the ground. So yeah, and maybe if Councillor Julia can expand more on how the last strategy was not very well implemented or taken or what have you, I'm happy to listen.
Councillor Noxana?
I would agree that sometimes an outside perspective is what we need. We're in a small town and we know what's working in town because we can look around and see what's happening. But getting someone from, like, this is their job to come in and say, we should work on this. And this doesn't mean that they're coming and bringing in 500 person, what was it, manufacturing. This could be, hey, this is how you get a daycare to open in town. That's a business. This is how you get another gas station, anything that the town needs. It doesn't have to just be negative things. And without investment in something like this, we're not going to see the town grow. We're all sitting here because we want to see our town grow and be successful. That's exactly what this is. We want investment in our community.
Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Julik.
Thank you. And also on this side, there's nothing that was just said that I disagree with. The only thing that I would say is we're still coming out of COVID. There's still a lot of things moving. And I think we know some of the bigger problems that we need to work on. Childcare is mentioned again. That's something that's being worked on. Housing and setup, that's something that's being worked on. And I would actually like to see a dozen or a few dozen sort of industrial things come to the area. I just don't think we're at the stage where we can attract that, and I would rather revisit this next year. I know to object to somebody from out of town doing it. I'm just looking at right now with what we have on our plate, do we need to invest in this year? And I would rather defer it to next year and see how we go with our childcare, with any movement on housing. If we have another mine that happens to open up along the way, all of it could be revisited, but I just don't see it right now. I would rather see things settle out a little bit and have a better sense of what's coming down the pipe than say at 2023, let's do the analysis and what are we going to go for 24 and 25. I would like to defer it for 1 year is where I'm at.
Thank you, Councillor Hoffman. Councillor Julik?
Yeah, basically just what Councillor Hoffman said. I feel like if we had somebody come in from out of town, and it wasn't that I meant that there's no value in that, it's just for me right now, boots on the ground, we know what's here. And I think that Ms. Finnegan and Ms. Olson know what's here. And I feel like we get somebody and they're going to say, oh, well, you need housing. Mm-hmm. Well, you need childcare. Uh-huh. And they're going to talk to businesses and businesses are going to tell them the same thing. I can't get staff. We're not unique in that. Like, I think that the things that we would get told at this point are the things that we already know. Like, a 500 person coming in, like, yeah, I am like Councillor Hoffman. I would just like to see it deferred. I think that it would not be a positive spend of money this year. I don't say that we never do it. I just don't think that we're ready for this year.
Okay, any more discussion? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I just wanted to bring out, like, when we had somebody in the last term come in and take a different perspective on things, on business development and attraction, one of the things they brought up was our website. And they brought us valuable information. I don't know if it was $15,000 worth of information, but they definitely brought. Excuse me, thank you. They brought in a different perspective on something we would have never guessed. And that's something that I would hope we can see from a development of strategy. I do see the value of potentially waiting to see the dust settle on the new landscape for business, because we are still shaking off the effects of COVID. But yeah, I think it's better to get in front of things versus wait. So yeah, I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, I'm going to make a couple comments, and I appreciate Councillor Julik putting it on the floor. At this time, I won't support the recommendation on the floor, and I think it's very important to do these investment strategies and keep them updated. And the reason I say that, things do change, and yeah, we maybe see that, daycare will be mentioned again, or housing and that, but there's going to be things that are going to be mentioned that maybe were not something that I thought it was a big thing. And one of it was, and Councillor Norbury already mentioned, and that was our website. We always realize that daycares is always going to be a concern, healthcare and housing. But I mean, there's other stuff that comes out of the investment strategy, and I think it's a really important thing to keep updated. We've had them done in the past, not just once, so I do think it's something that has to go forward. So I apologize to Councillor Julik, but I won't support the motion. Any more discussion? Okay, if we can have the recommendation read back up, please. Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. That staff remove the investment strategy from Schedule C.
Thank you. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. Any more discussion about Schedule C? Okay. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Looking for a sticky note to put over some of my information. So I just had a question regarding the transportation strategy. This is just the rail and airport facilities. The reason why I asked that is I put forward a recommendation to look at, to talk to BC Transit and BC Bus North. That is separate from this. We're not going to just turn away all transportation strategy ideas.
I was thinking that our motion would still be in play. Ms. Torval?
Just one moment, please. I'll defer to Ms. Finnegan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The reason why the transportation strategy came onto the budget this year, I have recommended it for 2024. This is one of the strategies that came out of the old investment strategy, and it's definitely probably more of a future project than the investment strategy from my perspective. The conversations with BC Transit and BC Bus North, yes, I have been in conversations with them and compiling some information as to where we stand with that. Whether there would be a need for this transportation study or strategy would be dependent on those conversations, which is why I've recommended it to be pushed out to next year in any event. So we have enough, to get on with this year to push it forward before we actually need to call for a strategy.
Thank you. Follow up, Councilor Norbury? Good. And one comment I'll make there is there's been a rail study done by the coalition. I'm pretty sure staff has received that. Okay. Okay, any more in regards to discussion in regards to Schedule C? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to Schedule D. Any discussion? Councillor Julik.
I just wanted to bring it up in the open to get some clarification on the wireless AV for EOC. Just because I didn't know what it was, so I'm going to guess maybe folks out in the community don't know what it is. So if we could just get some clarity on that.
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I will defer to Chief Curry, the EOC manager.
Mayor and Council, excuse me. I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. So this project will be as part of an expansion for the AV upgrades that were done in council chambers. We now have a limitation for the eventuality of an EOC activation in here with the new base stations that are all wired. We can't transform the room we used to. So this project will allow for 2 wireless microphone systems to be implemented within the room, as well as 1 more base station to be wired in for staff.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion in regards to Schedule D? Okay, I have a couple. Back to staff, Mr. Orville, can we get a total cost of the urban interface sprinkler protection trailer? I understand we carried forward some amount to get equipment that were, whether it was backordered or whatever. I just can't remember the total cost, and I asked that question earlier, so I'm just going to ask now.
75? Chief has just said it's 75,000.
Thank you for that. Okay, any other discussion in regards to Schedules D? Councillor Noxana.
The fire prevention vehicle. I'm still wondering why we needed I think it was a F-250 was the recommendation. When we have a truck coming, because the
Wildfire one that's in a different
so
schedule?
the
Yeah.
wildfire trailer needed to be pulled by a 250, but we now have a wildfire truck that's also coming. So I'm not sure why we need a bigger truck still for things like inspections and training, investigations.
Okay. Ms. Dorval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll defer to Chief Curry to explain.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the purpose of the prevention vehicle being an F-250 was during a wildland event, it is quite common that our squad vehicle may be required to go to one location, and the sprinkler trailer is going to be basically to protect town. So we need to have the ability to move that trailer around independent of the squad vehicle. That squad 8 will be responding typically out to brush fires and things like that, maybe on the perimeter of town. The truck as an F-250 was just to be multifaceted, so that we had the ability, should we require to pull the trailer independently, we had the option. There is the option that we may be able to get, a vehicle from our Public Works fleet, but that's not a guaranteed. So that's why we went with an F-250 in order to tow the trailer independently.
Thank you for that. Okay, any more discussion in regards to Schedule D? So I am going to bring another one forward, and it is the fire prevention / inspection vehicle. And I understand why staff has put it on there, and staff had mentioned previously that one of the reasons is they've used, I call it the dyno vehicle, but it's staff and council vehicle. My thought is as we keep adding more and more equipment, we have to replace that equipment as well. Whether it's a 5-year life expectancy or not, again, we'll be replacing another piece of equipment. So as we add more and more equipment within the community of Tumbler Ridge, we also have to look that we're going to be replacing that equipment ongoing. So I'd like to hear from council what the thoughts are. I do have a concern. Normally, I don't say, careful how I word this here. I don't usually debate too much that comes forward from our fire department. I mean, we have a bunch of volunteers that do an amazing job. But to me, as we start adding, like again, the equipment part is my concern. I understand the question from Councillor Noxana in regards to the trailer hauling. We do have multiple other vehicles. If we have a fire that we're activating a sprinkler trailer for, I imagine we're going to be in an EOC. And I would think we have access to multiple vehicles if need be. So that's my only concern. I'm not sure what council thinks. Councillor Julik.
I guess I'm not the expert on this, and so I would say that I understand the piece about having to replace it. I also feel like if it's not used a lot, then it doesn't need to be replaced as often. I believe that at any time, if my house is the one that ends up not being, if we're in an emergency situation, nobody wants to be the person that doesn't get the emergency vehicle there. I guess bottom line for me is I feel like we have good head of our departments. I feel like if it's been brought forward, there's a reason it's been brought forward. I also feel like if things don't need to be replaced, our staff has been pretty good at saying it's in good shape. We don't really need to replace it because there's always some place to put the dollar amounts. So I'm willing to defer to Mr. Curry in this case.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay. I want our council to be aware this is just a pickup truck. It's not a thing, so. I guess I do have a question from staff, and I know this has come up probably for the last few years in regards to a second vehicle in regards to the fire department. Before it was a second command. This will be left at the fire hall. Will be not 2 command vehicles going to residents. Okay. Okay. Any more in regards to Schedule D? Okay, E. Sorry, I had to look for the letter. I was trying to find it. I thought maybe it was the second page to D, and I'm like, okay, hang on, nobody's putting their hand up. So, moving on to Schedule E. Is there anything there that council would like to discuss? Councillor Julik.
I feel like I'm being a bit of a pain in the, well, whatever. I'm okay being that person. So the one that pops out at me is so we have the downtown core sidewalk renewal. So what I understood is that's being carried forward, but then further at the end of that chunk, it says, if we are not successful in receiving grant funds, we will still have to correct the slips, trips, and falls issues that are present. So I'm not sure why that's still there if we're saying it's a carry forward project. For me, I think this is, if we were to have a color on this, I see, because I'm thinking if we have a color on this, it needs to be red.
So I'll be honest with you, I think that was just left in. The grant money was already received in 2022. The job was unable to move forward in regards to an RFP going out and getting out in time and getting somebody to bid on the RFP. So I think that was just wording that was from the previous and was just carried over into the budget sheet. But I can just confirm it with staff because I believe it's all done. But Ms. Torval.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
I don't know, sorry. Ms. Weiner? Natalie?
Yeah, that was exactly correct. It was in there. The grant funding was confirmed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clickash.
Yes, Your Worship. Just wondering, is the contingency built into these prices?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll defer to Ms. Weiner. If the contingency was built into the prices?
The contingency was built in based on last year's prices, so there still could be it could go higher than that amount. No guarantee, but there is contingency funds in all projects.
Okay, can we find out how much that is? Percentage?
I could report back and take a look at the project. I don't have it at my fingertips.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Julik.
I'm moving on to something else if somebody else, okay. I'm like, okay, Roman staircase. I guess I'm wondering what that will look like. So where it is the removal of entire staircase and construction of 8 feet as recommended by Public Works to assist with the removal of old concrete. So I guess what I'm like, what will it look like when it's all said and done? Like we'll have no stairs whatsoever and it'll just be a hill. What does that look like?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will defer to Mr. Bradley for his input on this one.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, currently the staircase that's in place, it's 16 feet wide. 8 feet of it is almost unrepairable. So as a safety precaution, we've got it ribboned off right now so people don't use it. Moving forward this year, we do have to do something with it. I've given 3 different options. One option being that we cut out half of the staircase, leaving the remaining 8 feet. Then we do have handrail on both sides. We repair what we can on that set of stairs and then use a resurfacing product. The second was to remove the entire staircase, reform in a set of stairs. And then the third option would be to remove the stairs altogether and just utilize the asphalt pathway, which is about 35 feet around the corner from where the stairs are. And these are the options that we have for right now until we figure out what we're going to do with the Roman walkway revitalization.
Thank you. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So thank you, Mr. Bradley, for presenting us with these 3 options. With the recommendation is staff's recommendation, option 1, excuse me. Will there be options to add another 8 feet? So my thought about this project was we currently have 16 feet of stairs that could be meeting the need. If we reduce it to 8, if we had residents talk to us saying, hey, this isn't wide enough because I have 3 kids, I'm going up and down, I don't know. Is there an option that we could still bring back that 16 feet of stairs?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I will defer to Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, we could definitely, we could rebuild the whole set of staircase for you. When you look at it 8 feet wide, that's a very large set of stairs. So I thought it was going to be suffice for what we use it for. That staircase is previous before the pool was even there. So it's time to do something with the staircase to revitalize it.
Follow up, Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Thank you, Mr. Bradley, for that response. To be honest, I would tend to agree with Mr. Bradley in that 8 feet will probably be enough, but sometimes you never know. So I just wanted to know if that was an option, and if that's an option, I'm very content. Thank you.
Councilor Julik?
I just wanted to say those options are on page 39 of our agenda. And so my first question is this going to be staff's responsibility? And I really don't have a problem. Like, I'm terrible in the fact that unless I can actually see it in front of me, I'm wondering how much the stairs get used, and maybe then that it be more about the beautification of the community as it's not accessible. Like, I would rather see something that was accessible rather than the stairs, and the stairs to me become useless come wintertime or dangerous. So I would rather see the beautification. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm fine with sticking with number 1 if that works best for Public Works this year. But I'd also like to possibly see that those stairs just go away and that we have something that's set up as accessible, whether that means we have to cut out something so people can walk with a walker or whatever that looks like. Currently, I know kids, they run up and down that hill from the high school to come in to downtown and stuff. So maybe we had a prepared trail that was set up so that our sidewalk cleaner could use it in the winter or something like that. So, like I say, I'm fine. I don't want to add more to Mr. Bradley's schedule this year, but I'd eventually like to see it completely taken away.
So this is our opportunity, if we don't want stairs there, instead of spending money to do them, if that's the will of council. It's not what our Public Works, and no disrespect to staff in the room, but it's not what they want. It's our budget first. They can't go to work on the budget until we approve it, and if we want to make changes, this is where we make the changes, not after we approve the budget and staff go and do the job that they've put in front of us. We've agreed to it, and after it's done, we don't like it. This is the opportunity to change that part of the direction, and if that's the wish of council, this is the time to do it. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say I actually support the recommendation. I think a half staircase there is probably going to be more than sufficient. I think it's a good use of resources to make it a safe area, and I think that grade right there is just not going to be accessible whatever you do. There's a path 35 feet down that is a much less of a grade and can be used by somebody that has mobility issues. And there's also inside the community center, if they need to use the elevator that's hiding somewhere. I can't remember where exactly off the top of my head, but it's there. So I think there's a couple of options that'll work year round. And I think this is a good idea for staff time and resources.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, any more discussion in regards to Schedule E? Got lots of time, I'll wait. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I'm probably going to jump ahead of Councilor Julik, so we'll. My question was regard to the Community Beautification Special Project, replacement of community trees. I was just wanting some clarity of what that is. Where are these trees going to be? Is it the Roman walkway trees? Is it the RV park trees? Because I know we have a recommendation not to do that. Just kind of curious what that is and if we can get more information.
Okay, are you looking for location? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just looking for more of an overview of the project.
Okay. Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I can report that the trees will be replaced throughout the community, but I will defer to Mr. Bradley to provide further explanation to that.
Okay, the community beautification for the tree program, that was going to be put into operations, last conversation. And there's grant funding for both of the projects that we're going to undertake this year.
Follow up, Councilor Norbury?
Nope. Thank you.
Councilor Julik?
My first one is the purchase of new holiday lighting for both the Northgate and Southgate parking lots. I don't know what that means. I don't remember there being any holiday lighting.
I'm sorry, what section are you in here?
I'm still on E, and it is green, and it's underneath the first green item underneath the red. So 2 down from the Roman staircase.
Yep, got it. Okay, I'm sorry, what was your question?
I don't know what the holiday lighting is for. I don't recall there being any holiday lighting, so.
Yeah, so there isn't at this point. This was a discussion item that was brought forward in regards, it was from staff to staff, or staff to management, about doing the poles in the downtown parking lots. The 2 parking lots is my understanding. So Southgate and Northgate on the light standards that are the district-owned ones. That's what they're looking for.
So, but it says specifically holiday lighting, so we're just gonna change the lights out in them for the holiday season?
You know, like we have on Front Street and Main Street, how they have lights hanging off the side of lights. I'm assuming that's what they're looking for. There's no picture here, but I'm assuming that's what they're looking for. Ms. Torval?
That is correct.
So I'm not sure if you've seen them, like they have a little hanger and there's design on them with lights on them. Christmas, okay, they call them holiday lights, and I understand it. It's called Christmas lights.
Okay.
So that's what they're looking for, is those Christmas light decorations that go down the side.
I don't have a lot of, I'm okay to leave them there. I like Christmas lights. The next question.
Okay, and a
can
second,
go
I
to
got
the next? Okay.
Councilor Hoffman, then okay, back to you. Councilor Hoffman.
Thank you. Regarding the replacement of community trees, with the fact that it's being part of the operation budget and you have grants, does that mean that the increase of taxation is going down to 0?
No, because there'll still be operational tax, or tax on community. I'm not sure if it'd be the same percent, but it's still operational.
Okay.
Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor and Council. I'll ask Ms. Weiner to provide clarification on that one.
It's grant.
It's grant funded, so grant contingent.
If it was contingent on grant funding, I don't have that in there at this point in time. I only had it as it was going to be funded by taxation. So if there's grant funding that's been found available, I can put that in, and yes, it will reduce taxation, but yet it will not offset on the operating budget the operating costs, because there may be costs in the operating budget.
Good, Councilor Hoffman.
Yep, I'm good, thanks.
Councilor Julik.
I just wanted to clarify on the fleet replacement. fleet equipment replacement. It says replacing the 2007 Toyota Tacoma as per policy. I just wanted to clarify, if it's only as because of our policy, could we not waive it? And I understand that there's no increase to taxation, and I'm not sure why there wouldn't be. I guess maybe because it was in policy and so it's already been part of the budget. I just feel like maybe some of those funds could be used someplace if that Tacoma does not need to be replaced and we're only replacing it because policy says we need a certain age vehicle in the fleet.
I'm thinking it's because it's under PRA funding. Ms. Torval?
That is correct, Mayor.
I think the other question from Councillor Julich was, if it's just as per policy, then why are we not holding off? If we can just get information back that it's done its years of service and it's for time for replacement, I think that's what Councillor
It is, yes, thank you, Council. It is as per the policy, so the fleet replacement policy, so this one is scheduled to be replaced, this vehicle, so.
Councillor Julich?
So, like, I understand that the policy says that it needs to be replaced because of, that's the policy. I know that we can waive policy on other things. I guess my question is, does it need to be replaced?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Bradley to speak to this. Thank you.
Okay, we had 5 units that were up for replacement this year. We went through all of the equipment that we have that was up for replacement. The 2007 Toyota Tacoma was the only one that we are replacing this year. So it was the only one that we saw that needed replacement.
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. The only comment, thank you for Mr. Bradley for bringing that up, because so far in the past, I've seen we're not just following policy because it's policy. Like, there is a reason why, and we've definitely seen Mr. Bradley come on board and come up with creative solutions to save the district money. So at this point in time, I appreciate his comments and support the replacement.
Okay, thank you for that. Any more discussion? Councillor Julich?
Not on that item, so if somebody
Nope.
else. Okay.
Just in regards to Schedule E.
I see that there's a replacement of a lagoon blower compressor, which I'm totally, I have no idea what that is. If it's on there, it needs to be done. I thought it was an opportunity to bring up the noise that comes from there if we're going to be doing some changes. Like, maybe you guys don't hear it, but I can tell you, as somebody who used to run the RV park, you can hear the whine at night. It's the only thing that kind of interrupts the the silence of the community. I don't know if it's an easy fix or not. I just wanted to put it out there as somebody who's in the community, and I've also talked to other folks, and you can hear it at the golf course as well. And it's just background noise, but when you're sitting there and all of a sudden, it's when the mosquitoes buzzing by your ears, then you can't not hear it. So I don't know if it was from the compressor. It was when they did all the changes down there, though, is when the noise started to become knowledgeable, and so, not knowledgeable. That's when I noticed it. So mostly I just wanted to put that out there. If we're able to make a change when we're doing that, that'd be awesome.
So that won't happen in regards to my opinion. I can go to staff, but this is just to replace the blower. To me, if we see there's a concern with the noise that we're hearing from the lagoon blower compressor area, we could ask staff for a report to see if there's anything we can do to minimize the sound coming from there. But I think we have to direct them with a report so that they have the funds and the clear direction for council that we want it looked at, and to see if there's any viable way of trapping that noise inside.
All right.
Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor, and I was just about to say that. We will definitely look into it and see if there's something we can do to minimize the noise.
Perfect. Anything else from Schedule E from council? All good from Schedule E? Okay, Schedule F. Councillor Julich.
All right. I guess I'm curious as to if there was something we could do to help the holdup on the golf course boundary expansion, because it's been in progress since 2021. That could be from COVID or whatever, but I just wondered if there was something we as council could do. Make a phone call, send a letter.
This might have been in regards to Blueberry. Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I'll defer to Ms. Mackay, do you know?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Yeah, the project was delayed a little bit because of that Blueberry project, but right now, we've gotten through most of our hoops, and right now, the ministry is consulting with First Nations. So once that's complete, then we do have some other transfers of lands to kind of do in-house, but we're pretty much at a standstill until we get that consult done with the First Nations.
Follow up?
Well, I have another item. Imagine.
Councillor Julik?
The golf course irrigation, so when I read further into our package that talks specifically about that, so is the irrigation for the golf course or the driving range? And what I understand from the report is that originally it was thought that we were just running water to the golfing range so we could put the watering cannons on that. And I'm just wondering if the pricing in the package, what it's for, if it's for the running the water for the cannons or putting in irrigation.
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Mr. Bradley, if you could speak to that?
Yeah, this particular section right here, that is for the golf course itself. This has nothing to do with the driving range. So this is supplies just for the irrigation on the golf course.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion in regards to Schedule F? Councillor Julik?
I am surprised at the cost of a hot water tank. Like, is that just for the building? Like, just for the pro shop? Like, it just seems like a fairly pricey hot water tank, unless it's for something more than I'm understanding.
Yeah, I would think it's for the whole building. There's showers inside the downstairs. But Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll confirm with Ms. Mackay.
Yes, it is for the entire clubhouse, so upstairs, pro shop, the showers, the change rooms, the entire facility.
Councillor Hoffman?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I had left it on. Just to answer Councillor Julik, it is nothing like the one you have in your house. It's just not that. It's, I don't know if they're doing boiler with tank or if they're doing larger capacity. It's, yeah, don't worry about it, honestly.
Councillor Julik?
I just wanted to say cool. I didn't realize that there was showers in the clubhouse, so that makes a little more sense to me then. Thanks.
Okay, any more discussion in regards to Schedule F? Okay, moving on to Schedule G. Any discussion from council? Councillor Julik?
I'm still a little hesitant on the Bobcat. I'm not really sure about that, so I guess, like, I feel like I need a little bit more clarification as to why this Bobcat is needed there. Like, are we not able to put a plate on? Like, I read the report and that made sense. Is the public work ones busy enough that it's not advisable to share between the two departments would be one of the questions. The other question, sorry, and saying that, I know that you can get a license plate for Bobcats, as Al Dilk does have one on his, so I know that that would be a possibility, or I'm guessing that would be a possibility. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about on that. But do we need to spend that extra money there? Like, does Public Works use it so much in the wintertime that community center could not?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I will defer to Mr. Bradley to speak to that.
Okay, the Bobcat that we've looked at for the community center this time around is a narrower machine. You guys have asked for us to look at solutions for possibly the front of the building for the ice and the brickwork. We've looked at the Bobcat option as well as having the Bobcat brush for the front to take care of the brickwork. Snow blower doesn't quite do the job that the brush would do. Also, Public Works comes along, we are able to take care of the snow removal to get the business open, but we don't do the fine and dirty work. That's kind of left up to the staff at the community center. Again, we just make it safe for people to go to the building. They get rid of all their own snow and whatnot afterwards, be it used by the transfer station Bobcat, which is a larger unit. That's why this unit is a narrower unit, so we could use it in more spaces.
Councilor Norberg.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So last year, I remember we talked about this before, and you know, there are a lot of things that were brought up, and last council wanted to see better utilization of the transfer station Bobcat, because the thought was they could bring it up, they can move it down. And my thought behind this is that they tried it, didn't work, it's still there. So for me, if they're still asking for it, again, after last year of us of saying that, I would be in favor. Also because we're continually getting comments about accessibility to the building. I would hope that with this purchase, we can see an increased level of accessibility in our community center. So at this point in time, I would like to try it.
Councilor Noxana.
I struggle with buying another vehicle that, as you said, we're going to have to replace and maintain, but mostly replace. They're expensive. So I am not in favor. Do you need me to make a motion?
If you want to put a motion on the
I
floor.
would like to make a motion to remove the Bobcat. It's a lot of money. And then going forward, it's a lot of money forever.
Okay, hang on a second.
Okay.
Just remove the Bobcat from Schedule G is your motion.
Yeah.
I need a seconder. Councillor Dussault, and then with discussion, Councillor Noxana.
Okay, back to, we're replacing it every so many years based on how much it's used. We do have another one here in the community, and it had been looked at by previous council. It hadn't been used a lot. The hours weren't super high on it. I'm going to wait at that. Yeah, I'm going to stop at that.
Okay, Councillor Julik.
So what I heard from Mr. Bradley is the current Bobcat that we have is not narrow enough to do the work that we need to do to make it more accessible in front of the building. He can correct me if I'm wrong. I understand where Councillor Noxana is coming from. I also believe, I actually thought we had more than one Bobcat. I didn't realize that the other Bobcat that we were talking about was down at the transfer station. I feel like trying to get those back and forth, I was thinking we would be moving one from Public Works Department over to Community Center, not having to bring it through town. I like the idea of them, like when you go to in 4.3, I don't know why we had it different, but in the, I think it was in there. I want to say that I read something somewhere here. Facility storage, no. Yeah, so agenda on page 30. Yeah, like, so what I took from that was that it's narrower. So what I'm understanding that our sidewalk machine is too big to travel to there, to maneuver through that path. What I understand is that the current Bobcat that we have is not narrow enough for it. And they also have like some summer use that they could be using it. And I know in the summer, the Bobcat down at the transfer station, I see that in use a lot down there. So I'm actually okay and would be in support of leaving this on. And because it's part of our, the PR, whatever. The money, yeah. So I'm okay with it. I think that it will, streamline operations, and I believe that it will help with injuries and like just staff. Like, who wants to be lifting all the heavy stuff all the time and having that option as well? Anyways, that's it.
So just on, I'll make one comment here. In regards to PRA funding, let's not get hooked on that, because PRA funding can be moved anywhere, just so council's aware of that. I got Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you. I do sympathize very much with your position, Councilor Noxana, but I think the question is, what's the alternative? And when the alternative is tens of thousands of a contractor coming in and doing it versus us owning a piece of hardware and keeping the labor in-house, as much as I don't like the $90,000 price tag that comes with, I think this is just the reality of today that we're going to be spending on equipment. And if that equipment over its life is going to result in a pretty big number saved versus private contractors doing it, I'm going to have to support it.
Thank you. So I got myself and then Councillor Noxana make a couple comments. One, I don't think we'd ever have to use outside contractors. I think we could always bring our snow removal policy back and dictate what we kind of service of snow removal we want in regards to our community center. If we're not happy with the snow removal that's happening in our community center, we change our policy. And we use the staff that we have and the equipment we have. I guess the only question I have, and I'll go to Councillor Noxana, is the Bobcat Toolcat, is that able to fit the same dimension? Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor. Through to council, I will defer to Mr. Bradley.
There will be some restrictions with the Bobcat Toolcat as far as going in behind the pool. I believe that it'll be a tight fit going in there, and it will not fit on the sidewalk in front of the rec center. So originally the Bobcat that was asked by the community center was a larger Bobcat. We actually went out and took measurements based on the request for a solution on the roof dripping in front of the rec center. Once we took that look into consideration, we took the measurements, we got a smaller Bobcat quoted with a smaller angled brush. So just to be able to help out in front of the rec center. That was our first thought when we were looking at a different unit. The second one was in behind the pool, as you guys all know, where the daycare entrance is. Everything pools down into that area. We can maintain that area more efficiently and safer.
Thank you. Councillor Noxana, then Councillor Norbury.
I was going to point out the other Bobcat as well. And I'm just not sure that we need two in this year's budget. It's a lot of money going forward.
Okay, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So I tried to do a little bit of work my own on checking the replacement policy for Bobcats. I couldn't find anything. I was curious to ask staff about what the replacement schedule would look like for a Bobcat. Would it be based on hours used, years, mileage? Because, to Councillor Noxana's comments about the replacement policy, yes, we have to build into our asset management, but it seems to me like we're moving away from year values and moving more towards hours used. So my hope with this would be, yes, we'd have to replace it, but due to the amount of usage, we should get quite a few more years than you might expect. So I was kind of curious what the life would be.
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. That's a great question, and I will defer to Mr. Bradley to answer that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, as we've seen since I've started in this position, going through the fleet replacement policy, replacing not just based on a schedule, but on usage. So I think responsibly, if we follow that, we will get many years out of this.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion? So I'm going to make a couple comments. A couple comments that were mentioned from staff was it's a way of trying something out in front of our community center, a $90,000 try. Understanding the brush thing, there's other options out there, I think, before we spend $90,000. We can get a self-propelled brush just like a snowboard to try it out first. If it works, come back to council, then let's look at a Bobcat. Again, my concern is there are Bobcat that's down at the transfer station. My understanding is it has gone down in behind the swimming pool to clean out there. So to me, it seems like there's enough distance there. So I will support the motion that's been put on the floor in regards to removing this Bobcat at this time. I think staff needs to come maybe back with another option, especially if we're just trying something to remove the ice from in front of the community center. I think there's some other options that we need to look at. I went by there today. Can we extend the roof out to the end of the sidewalk so it drips onto the road, which to me, Public Works can totally take care of the ice buildup. I looked at that today. I don't know if it's doable, but I looked at that and I have a hard time with $90,000. I do not believe, I meant to ask a question when I was in and talked to Ms. Torval, what we spent last year in regards to snow jams that was supposed to prevent all this. And I don't know, Councilmember, if you remember, but I want to say we budgeted, I'm not saying we spent it was $23,000. Pretty sure that number rings a bell. I didn't get a chance to look, but I'll support the motion on the floor. Any more discussion before we call the question? Okay. If we can just have the question read out again, please. Ms. Torval?
That we remove the Bobcat from Schedule G.
Thank you. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any more discussion in regard, Councillor Julik, sorry.
No, oh, on that
I hope
count,
I didn't miss
yes.
you earlier.
No, this is for something new.
Okay, sorry.
I would like to make a motion to remove the electronic marquee sign replacement at the community center.
Seconder? Councillor Hoffman. Discussion.
I don't see it as something that the community uses. I think that it goes up there. Hasn't worked probably since we got it, so I don't think it's anything anybody's come to count on. I think that we will continue to see issues because of the weather. I think that the community center's done a good job in putting the information out there for our community when things are happening, whether it's social media or what it is. And we tend to be a little unique here in our little community on what we pay attention to and what we don't. I just think it's a cost that, I think it's just paying for another problem, so.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I don't support the recommendation on the floor. I have a different experience with the marquee than Councillor Julik. I have people telling me when it's not working. They tell me that they want to know what's going on in our community, and that's another way for us to advertise what's going on. I think it's common. I think it should be common practice in communities. My only comment is, what would be the cost to remove it? Do we know?
I know we asked that. I'm not sure if staff's had time, because we asked, there was a motion last time or discussion about it, and we asked for both costs. One for the replacement, which is in front of us, and then one if it wasn't go through, what, because there were some councillors were saying what was the cost, and if we don't have it, that's fine. If we don't have it, that's understandable. Ms. Torval?
Sorry, we don't have those costs yet.
No problem. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So at this point in time, I'd like us to leave it in until we find out how much it would be cost to remove or what have you. I think it's a bad idea to just have this up there in its current state. It's a big dead screen. I mean, if we get costs of what it'd take to take down, because that seems to me, if we're moving this out, we're doing nothing. And we should be having a plan moving forward. I still support the replacement.
Thank you, Councillor Norbury. Any more discussion? So yeah, I know this is a topic and stuff like that, and I guess I got a couple points. And one, I think it is a communication tool when it's working. Is it in the most appropriate spot for advertising? Possibly not. That it's easily seen, I guess, maybe not. I know I do hear when it doesn't work. I would say I don't know about it when it works, because people don't seem to bring it to your attention that the screen is not working again. So I think residents are for sure using it as a way of finding out what's going on in town, or whether announcements are happening within the community, whether it's, we're doing, open houses, let's talk, whatever it may be. I think some people are capturing on there. I guess my question back to staff in regards to this, and I apologize if it was in a report, because I tried digging for one, I couldn't find a whole detail on it. In regards to the replacement of the screen, it seems like it's a concern, one, in the wintertime mainly, when we have snow in regards to the way it blows. Has that been looked at before we just replace this screen? And are we replacing it with a similar concept? And are we going to have a similar problem? I know we can't outlook that we will, but I want to make sure we've looked at the whole scenario that, we have to do this and do that to protect the screen, or the screen's going to be fine.
Thank you. I will ask Ms. McKay if she can provide input on the
Thank you,
screen.
Mayor, through council. So doing the research for the cost to replace the electronics and everything required to get the sign working again has been done through a company that's in Fort St. John. We didn't really ask about the direction of the winds and that sort of thing, but definitely did ask about the climate, and they're very familiar with the climate, being within the same region. So we can only anticipate that it would be the newer upgraded model that would work in our sign.
Okay, I guess that would be my concern, that we pay to get the upgraded, the new version, the 2023 version of the sign that we bought in 2012. Same design, just newer components. I'm not saying that, you know, I understand the motion on the floor, but I'm maybe trying to look at maybe a different way, that maybe we leave it, it's taxation. We ask for a report, getting 100% clarity that if council moves forward, we just put it on hold, still have it there, put it on hold if maybe if this motion doesn't pass. We can do it another way that doesn't move ahead until the report comes in and council's happy with the report. And the only reason I say that to council is that is my concern, is if we're just updating to a different or to a newer version, but we're gonna have the same problems when, as soon as the snow hits the screen or whatever, it seems to blow. And it seems to me, I'm not sure, Councilor Norbert, if you've noticed, or any other councilors, but to me, I haven't really noticed it as much in the summer that it goes down, mainly in the winter time when snow hits the screens. So that'd be my only concern. Councilor Hoffman and then Councilor Julik. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure if this happened before. Councilor Dussault.
Ms. Torville, for staff, what are the TVs for inside the community center?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you. The television screens inside the community center, they're to display the events that are happening within the community center.
Follow up, Councilor Dussault?
Yes, I was just wondering, is there some way we could not utilize those instead of replacing the sign?
Gotcha. Okay. We can do whatever we give direction to do. We can't do it, but we can give the direction for sure. Councilor Julik.
So I guess where I'm comfortable with today, after listening to everybody, is I would like to still keep the motion on the floor and vote on that. And if it passes, then I'm comfortable making a motion that we revisit this. So maybe it's not this year. I think Councillor Dussault brings forward a really good idea. We have one of those TVs also at the Visitor Information Center. So those are two places we could utilize those screens as well. My concern is if we leave it on there, then it's something, like I feel like then it's a little ambiguous, like it sits there and staff doesn't really know what we want them to do. So I'm okay with taking it off and getting the report about, like, coming back with the information, or changing the wording of it. Like maybe it's investigating, you know what I mean? Like leaving the amount on there, maybe because it's a capital thing, that's not doable. I'm not sure, Mayor. But I think we need to be a little bit clearer, because it sounds to me like we have a couple of different options, and we're a little bit both. Like, I don't have a problem if they can tell me, yeah, that machine's gonna work, great, but I don't want to spend 20 grand on something.
Round X.
Well, whatever that number comes in at, right? I'm just throwing a number out there. Like, whatever that looks like, then, like, I don't want to spend that money. And because I'm quite sure when we got it in 2012, everybody thought that it was going to work, and then it didn't. And I guess my other question would be, if we are asking for a report, is to find out, like, you know, we periodically as councillors hear things from the community, but maybe that's one or two people in the community. Does the community center get a lot of feedback as to whether or not the frustration, if that sign's working or not?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you. I'll defer to Ms. McKay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, we did get quite a few comments from the public wondering, when's it going to get up and running, especially with the nonprofit relationship that we're forming with all the user groups, and how we're, advertising for some of their events and that sort of thing, there is usually a benefit to have their information displayed outside.
Thank you. So let's make another comment, then I'll go Councillor Norbury. I understand the concept or the thought or the idea, Councillor Dusso, in regards to using the inside screens, whether it be at the community center or at the Vic Center. The only concern I have there is the people that don't go inside. They see it from the outside, and that's why I think it's it is valuable. There is value to that in our community, whether it's from the nonprofit side, making sure their events are being advertised, but it's also from when the district does events too, to make sure it's out there. And I know, like I say, I don't hear when the screen is working. I only hear when the screen isn't working. So my only concern is making sure that we are getting the right screen that is not going to have the same concerns like the previous one in 2012. Councillor Norbury.
You said what I had to say, Mayor.
Sorry. My apologies. Okay, last question, and I'm calling the question.
I would just say that I am comfortable voting against this motion as long as there can be some sort, if we could get feedback back on what the guarantee or the warranty life is on a new sign. Like, I mean, if they're gonna give us 90 days, well, I'm probably not in favor. So I'm okay, I will vote against the motion if we can get some more information as to what kind of life the supplier would be giving us.
Okay, so there'll be two questions we're going to ask staff. One is the warranty, if we know what that is. But the other question is, if this motion is defeated, if it stays in, are we, is another motion coming out to put it on hold until a report comes back to council from whatever company you're using to make sure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's in regards to the usage of the screen? Ms. Dorval?
Thank you, Mayor, and to the council. Yes, you can vote on this motion, and even if it is carried, we will kind of put a hold on it, not do anything, and then make another motion after this one and give us direction to bring back relevant information.
Okay. Do we know the warranty on the screen that is being looked at?
I will just ask Ms. McKay, do we know the warranty at this point?
No, not at this time.
No, not at this time, but that's something we could,
Okay. Ms. Dorval, you're...
Ms. Weiner?
To Mayor and Council, there's one other option that you could choose, is not putting it in the budget at this point, doing a budget amendment later if you choose to, and using reserve funds at that point in time.
Yeah, thank you, and I realize that's there. I'm not a big fan of the unbudgeted funds. This is up to this council, but I'd rather see it being budgeted and carried over than to not budget and then we're using unbudgeted funds. So there was no taxation on it. So. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. At this point in time, I would be voting against the motion. Councillor Julik, I think you encapsulated what I would like to see happen in that. Let's leave it in, but also after we leave in the replacement, let's also go to staff with a motion to bring back a report, and we put this on hold until we just get clarification that we won't have the same problems of the past. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Oh, hang on a second. Let's have it read back out. We're going to do that just because we get long debate, so. Ms. Dorval?
Sorry. That we remove the electronic marquee sign replacement from Schedule G.
Thank you. Okay, call the question. All in favor to remove? Opposed? Carried. Somebody want to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So I'll make the motion that we request a report from staff on the northern conditions, expectations on a new marquee sign.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Julik. Discussion?
Is the only comment I'd make is back to staff. Does that encapsulate what we're looking for? We do want to know, will this screen be solid enough to survive the winters up here without continued outages and like the wind issue that you brought up? Okay.
Ms. Dorval?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wondering if council would also like to include the warranty? Something regarding the warranty?
Yeah, we'll have to do an amendment there. Just what Councillor Norbury brings up, I understand there was talk about possibly using a company that's within the region. and maybe an on-site visit needs to happen and understand what happened to this screen. I'm not sure what the budget was back then. I understand the post had to be built. There was more involved back then than just replacing the screen today. But there is concern when it was down. To me, I think we've heard from the public, it was down more than it was up. Councillor Hoffman, then Councillor Norberry.
I don't know if we need an emotion or not with what you're, I wouldn't mind having references, like where's this model been put up before and how's it doing? I mean, if we've had problems with this, let's be a little more cautious before we jump in with 2 feet and put another screen in. So maybe a different technology this time, maybe a different manufacturer, I don't know, but just let's make sure it's been installed somewhere and operating well with another town council that can at least vouch for it.
Thank you, Councillor Hoffman. Councillor Norberry?
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that we also ask for warranty details on a new potential sign.
Okay, a seconder on the amendment. Councillor Dussault? Discussion on the amendment. Okay, I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, any more discussion on the amended motion? Sorry? No, okay. Okay. Okay, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Are you opposed or for? Okay, thank you. I just called it when you were putting it up, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, carried, sorry. Okay, any more discussion in regards to Schedule G? Councilor Norberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. My question was the VIC log chinking. I was going to talk to staff, but I just wanted to double check. Have we ever done this before? Because we've talked about this quite a few times, and it seems to me that this has been done. Is this the first time we're going to do the chinking?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. McKay. This is the first time.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Yes, this will be the first time that we do the log chinking. You may be getting confused with the staining of the logs, which we did the year before. But the chinking is actually filling the cracks between the logs, and after 5 years, the logs shrink, so there's quite a bit of noticeable space. So that would address those.
Thank you. Councillor Julik and then Councillor Clickash.
I think Councillor Clickash is talking specifically into the chinking, yes?
Councillor Julik, go ahead, please. Go ahead. If you have a
I'm not
question.
talking about the chinking though, but Councillor Clickash
Are you
is.
do you have a question? About
I
what's so
have,
far?
I have a whole bunch of stuff for
Okay.
this schedule.
Councillor Clickash.
Yes, Your Honor, Your Worship. I just like to ask what kind of chinking this is going to be used on that.
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask Ms. McKay if she's got specifics on the chinking. It's for log buildings, I'm sure, but.
It's, I know when I was researching it, I was asked, was it with a water-based or an oil-based stain? So it would be for the proper staining of the logs. It comes in a pail. It can come in different colors. As far as the base of it, I'd have to get more information and bring it back to you, but
So they'll be getting a professional chinker in to do this work?
yes, it would.
Ms.
be-
Torval?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Ms.
Sorry.
McKay.
Mayor, through to council. Yes, definitely a contractor would be doing this job.
And follow up, Councillor Clickash. Anything else? Perfect. Councillor Julik.
So the next item I had was the water slide at the pool. I'm looking forward to being replaced. Are we looking at basically what we had there previous, or will this be a little bit fancier, or?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you. I'll defer to Ms. McKay. She's got the
Thank
slide
you,
picked
Mayor,
out.
through to council. It will be placed at the same location. It's a little bit fancier. It actually has the capability of having water hosed onto it so that it's a little bit more fun for the kids. So,
Cool. Thank you. Councillor Julik.
I just wanted to get some clarification on the fitness center stuff. So it still says that there's safety concerns. The last time we asked this question, we were told, no, there's not safety concerns. So so just to get some clarity on the free weights and the leg press machine.
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Ms. McKay, could speak to those.
Thank you, Mayor, through the council. The free weights, I believe we were moving to operations because it was just minor, couple of sets of the barbells. I'd have to double check my other file. But the leg press machine, yeah, there is reports that the locking mechanism is wearing down. So there is a bit of a safety concern that patrons, you know, if they don't ensure that it's in place, that it could come down and squish them.
All right, well, I'm going to go first. Ms. Torval, if that is the case, should this equipment be locked up? Hearing what I just heard from staff. If we're aware of an issue, and it's a huge safety concern, was what I've just heard. Should something happen there? Because to me, now I am aware of it. I mean, this council's aware of it.
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. McKay.
Yeah, I am not too familiar with its usage, but yeah, you're correct. I believe it should be removed.
Councilor Norbert.
Thank you, Mayor Kakak. I'll speak to the leg press because I used it within the last week or so. I think I recognize everyone's concerns about the safety of it. I think where the sled comes down and hits the lockout, so you are starting to see a little bit of indentation on the metal. I don't know if it's one of those things like, oh my goodness, this is a safety thing, we have to lock it out right now, but it's definitely, this could be a problem multi-years, a couple years in the future. So I wouldn't be concerned, my unprofessional opinion, about it, because I use it regularly. It doesn't seem like there's any major issues there, but looking in the future, we have heard that it is past its life expectancy, and it should be replaced. It's more of a proactive thing, my thought.
Yeah, so I would not give direction for them to lock it out. I'm asking that question. If staff needs to bring somebody in to do the proper inspection to tell us what it is, but to me, when we have staff sitting in the room saying that they tell the patrons to be extra cautious on this, to me, that should be a concern. I apologize, I don't use it, obviously, but I'm very concerned if there's a safety issue. If there's not, staff can deal with it from their side. Again, I'm not going to get in the kitchen. It was just what I said, so I just wanted to rephrase it. I am not telling staff to lock anything out. That is staff to weigh out the consequences if something happens. Ms. Torval.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask Mr. Bradley to speak to that.
Okay, as I've stated before, Mayor and Council, there is wear starting to show on this piece of equipment. This equipment was bought in 1998 with a 5-year life expectancy. We've far exceeded the life expectancy of this piece of equipment, and we need replacement.
Councilor Julik.
Yes, I understand it could be playing with trains. I think, though, once we have on here that there's safety concerns, we either need to, I would like to just see it replaced, period. But in the meantime, it not be run at all. I understand that could be playing with trains. I'm just going to put it out there the same as Mayor Kakauka put it out there. Also, I guess I would then like to say to Mayor Kakauka, if Ms. McKay was talking about the free weights, they still are on here as a capital cost. If they are going to be taken up with operational, that we remove it from the schedule.
Ms. Torval.
Yes, thank you. I believe Natalie would like to speak.
Your Worship and Council, this item was left on because it will create an additional cost to the operational budget. It wouldn't be taken up. Other items that we've been moving into the operational budget will be absorbed by the operational budget. This will create an increase, so it still will create a tax increase. There's one other item I wanted to jump in on the fitness center. It missed on this report. There's an accessibility access for $15,000 for accessibility to the weight room. It was on the other one for an automatic door with grant funding.
You mean amount X?
It was
Amount X?
Sorry, yeah, amount X, yes. So the funding for it was all 100% funded by grant funding.
Guess that amount doesn't matter then. Okay, thank you for that.
Yes.
Any more discussion in regards to Schedule G? Councilor Clickash?
Yes, just with the new dehumidifier for the pool, I noticed they got $50,000 there.
Budgeted X?
This is,
I know, but the amount's budgeted by X, right? Trying. No, trying.
what's that?
Thank you, Council. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Okay? Take a 5-minute recess, come back to Councilor Clickash. The meeting back to order. Councillor Clickash, we ended with you.
She's got her hand up.
Natalie?
Mayor and council, I wanted to inform you also, keep in mind as you go through the rest of these projects, you've deferred some PRA funding that you can allocate to eventually reduce taxation.
Okay. I think if we defer anything or take or reject anything that's within the budget, I think if staff can move the PRA where they see suited, instead of council trying to say, well, let's move some of the PR funding here or there. I think if it's staff could just move it and then bring it back forward in front of council. Good with council? Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Maybe is what Natalie's mentioning, is that an issue, like we're not going to utilize the PRA funding fully, and if we don't, we're going to miss out? My thoughts is maybe we're talking about the Bobcat. If we don't use the money for the Bobcat, we're not going to use it, we're going to lose out. Is the thought that if we have not an amount remaining left to be used for PRA funding, we could potentially see projects come back? Is that what we're talking about? Just want some clarity.
No problem. Natalie?
Your worship, what it is I will take from the direction of council that I've just received, I will reallocate that same PRA funding to another project that there would have been taxation for. So therefore reducing. So while you had a 4%, it may drop it down now to a 3% increase on taxation.
Okay. Yeah. Councillor Clickash?
Yes, Your Worship, if this dehumidifier isn't working right now, that should be an emergency type thing and get it fixed. Because we've had the parapets on that building rot right out because of it, and the ceiling could rot out as well.
Okay. Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I will defer to Ms. McKay. Mr. Bradley, Ms. McKay?
Thank you, Mayor, through council. I don't know that it's not working. I just know that it's come to its life expectancy and it's not working properly. I'd have to get more information on that topic. I just know that there was quite a few dehumidifiers that was being suggested that should be replaced because they are original.
Yep.
Councillor Clickash, follow up?
This dehumidifier can go on bypass, and what you're doing is you're just wasting a lot of energy by blowing all the heat out of the pool area. So then the heat requirement for the pool increases, and also for the room itself. So if that's what's happening with it right now, if it's on bypass, well, then it still needs to be repaired right away.
Okay, I think some of that, and I guess Ms. Torval will look for some assistance there. If we think that is a priority from council side, so Councillor Clickash has brought some valuable points there. When we move on to pre-approval requests, that's an item, my opinion, if Councillor Clickash believes that should be a priority, that it could be pre-approved. Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Staff?
Yes, I'll get more information, but if it is to that state, then yes, it will be added to your pre-approval list.
Pre-approval list is tonight, though.
Oh, it's tonight.
Yes.
But we can add that, correct? That's all I'm looking for.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So Councillor Clickash, just when we come there, I've noted it to bring it up for discussion for yourself, but if you want to make a note of it, and then we can just talk about it. If we want to add it to it, we can. Okay, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Can we get some more discussion from staff on the museum furnace?
You betcha. Ms. Torval.
Thank you. New information has been brought forward regarding the furnace at the museum, and I will ask Ms. McKay to speak to this, please.
So originally I thought it was just a problematic furnace, but apparently the issue is more about the air, the fresh air intake. So each room has several furnaces, furnaces. And the cold air or the air is getting pumped into these rooms instead of going to each unit like usually it would. And so those rooms get very cold. So like the condensation lines and that sort of thing are freezing. And so I think that's where a lot of these problems are coming from. So I don't have all the information at this time about cost or even the ability to put in a fresh air intake for each unit. And then how would that look? Would it be 21 pipes going up to the roof, or like, I'm not sure. So, talking with my colleagues, I think we wanted to remove that and just do more of a, like, just you get a contractor to come in and do more of an assessment for me, just so that I kind of have a better understanding as to what is the whole issue and the problem.
Follow-up, Council Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Hearing that, I'll move that we remove the museum furnace from Schedule G.
Seconder? Councilor Noxana? Discussion. Councilor Hoffman?
Actually get the report back before we do this. Just, it seems to have been a little all over the place on what's going on, and I don't want it to drop the fact if it is an air intake issue, there's going to be some cost associated with that. So whether it's a furnace or repiping into return air or whatever we're going to need to do for this, I don't want to see it dropped.
Okay, any more discussion? I'm going to go to Councilor Norbury, then Councilor, hang on a second, then Councilor Klikosh. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So at this point in time, like if we leave it in, my concern is that we're going to go out and buy a furnace because, you know, this is what we're setting out. We may be looking at a larger scope, and it's best that we just sort of hold off on any purchases till we get a full understanding of the scope that we're going down, because it might not be a furnace. It could be two. It could be we just need to have somebody come in and do some, whatever our staff is telling us. So at this point in time, I don't like putting towards funding unless we know what it's going towards. And if staff's recommending we pause this, I'm inclined to listen to them.
Thank you. Councilor Klikosh?
When Zwick Plumbing and Heating put all those furnaces in, there was no air intake problem. I don't understand why it'd be not one now. So maybe they should be out here to look at it.
Thank you. Councilor Julik?
So it says here specifically, replace furnace even after being repaired, it is still problematic. But I don't know that we need to remove it. I would say, like Councillor Hoffman, there doesn't seem to be a price along here either, or a tax. I'm just looking. There's no, sorry, I'm trying to find it. I got two books here.
What's your idea? If you just send it out, maybe somebody's seen it.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, so on the one page, it doesn't show that there's a increase to taxation. So I, like, if it's gonna be an operational, I don't,
PRA funding.
it's PR, it doesn't even have a 0% though, is why I'm curious. Oh, there it is, okay. Can we just rename it? Cause I would rather have, staff be able to do whatever it needs to be done. And if it's not a furnace, that's fine. But if we have the amount there, and trust staff to do what needs to be done.
Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So the one particular issue that I see arising that Councillor Julik is suggesting is we're putting aside capital costs. It may be a non-capital cost they'll be expending. Staff, from my understanding, we can't just take capital costs and put it into bringing somebody in. That's something different, right? That'd be my concern about this. And I just repeat, if staff's asking for us to remove this, staff's telling us they don't need it. Let's do what they're telling us. I can appreciate we want to make sure that our concern is for the museum. We want to have operational efficiency of the museum, but at the same time, if staff is saying we're throwing good money at bad at this point, let's get an understanding what we really need so we can be targeted. I'm in favor of that. So at this point, in favor of my motion.
Councilor Julik?
I guess then what I would ask for is some clarification about what happens if once they get looking into this and it's something that is capital, or it's like, I feel like I'm like behind the 8 ball and we've had so much information. Maybe I'm just not understanding. Maybe it can be covered, like maybe once it goes all the way through and we find, oh yeah, it is a capital cost because we need to do this and this and this to make it work. I feel like if it has something to do with the furnace because the furnace isn't working, it's gonna be a capital cost. But if it's not, then what? Does it have to come out of operational? Do they have to come back to us? What does that look like?
Yeah, so, so some of this, I mean, I understand what staff is saying, they want to investigate it. So to me, it doesn't sound like we need a motion for a report. Sounds like they're going to investigate it as they know there's something there and they need to do their own investigation first. If this is removed and all of a sudden we find out later after the investigation is done and they get some feedback back and it was a furnace that needs to be done or something else, then it would be unbudgeted funds after the budget, if the budget has already been approved. If we remove it and remove this funds out of the PRA funding and move those funds somewhere else, then it would, to me, if the budget is not approved or it hasn't gone past that point yet and we have to add furnace or whatever, it would be taxation. But, Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I'll ask Chief Curry to speak to this or provide more information.
Your Worship and Council, so as when Interim CAO Torval was on holidays in December of last year, and what's that? In Mexico. In Mexico, yes, much placed. And I was in the acting CAO role. The executive director for the museum approached me with this concern about the furnace. It stems from the air intake, as we've heard from Ms. McKay, that it's freezing off. The condensate line. So this furnace is only one furnace out of a room that has 16 in it, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but there's a considerable amount of furnaces that are in there. And this one furnace is serving one room in the museum that is very rarely used. It's in the back corner. It's for specimens. There was not a great deal of urgency that was brought forward by the executive director at that point. I think what staff is recommending right now is that we engage a contractor to look at options. As Councillor Clickash had previously mentioned, when these furnaces were replaced, there wasn't a requirement for outside combustion air to be individually piped. They had a big fresh air intake that was feeding the entire room for combustion air. So codes have changed. There's more requirements now, et cetera. So we're just looking to try and engage a contractor so that we can formally come up with a plan of how to move forward with it so that we can solve this issue.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I'm going to do exactly what I'm not supposed to do. I want to just try some heating tape or something on a condensate line. Like if this is what the issue is, I'm all of a sudden okay with dropping the furnace as a potential. So thank you, Chief Curry, for that update. Very much appreciated.
Okay, any more discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll have the motion read back, please. Mr. Torval.
Thank you. That we remove the museum furnace from Schedule G.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Julik?
The outdoor tennis court to pickleball court, I'm not against it. I'm just going to take this opportunity to say again that I think we need to look at a plan for what the community center looks like. I feel like we're piecemealing it again. I know for like into agenda item 4.3, there's some more information in regards to this, and so I would ask Mayor, should I leave it till 4.3 when that information is in the package to ask a few more questions?
I can ask him now if you wish.
I guess I would like to say okay, but I would also like to say, because we have some courts that aren't in use, I would like to hear from staff, like, is it up? Like, how much difficulty is it for them to change this stuff over beyond capital costs? You know, so far as, I know there's some kids in the community who like to play volleyball, so does that mean if we get the pickleball court, that we won't have the volleyball court, as we see a decrease, as is shown in 4.3 on the racquetball and stuff? is it good to look at a different option there? Like, what does that look like for staff, and do they need us to bring that stuff forward to them? Do we need to do that in a let's talk kind of situation? Basically, just trying to serve the needs of everybody here.
Mr. Orville?
Thank you. I'll defer to Ms. McKay to speak to the.
Thank you, Mayor, through to council. So yeah, the last idea was to just take one of the old tennis courts outdoors and just put the lines and put the proper net for the pickleball out there. I don't know about the usage of the tennis courts because they're outdoors. You do see the odd people out there playing, but there is 2 courts in that location, so we would only be doing the 1 court. And then the basketball hoop is kind of in its own little side, so that wouldn't interfere with that area.
Okay, Councillor Noberry, then Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. You know, to echo what Councillor Julik is saying, you know, I think it's a good idea that we look at recreation as a whole. My question would be, if we are converting, are we doing a complete conversion from tennis to pickleball, or can we have multi-use of that court? Because I've been told that we can still have it used for tennis and pickleball at the same time, or is it a binary? It's either tennis or it's pickleball, and we only get to choose one.
Mr. Orville?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As I'm not the pickleball expert, I will defer to Ms. McKay.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I think some of you councilors might know more about the pickleball than I do, but it's my understanding the net is a little bit different. I'm not sure if it's the width or the height. I believe the height might be a little bit different. So, I mean, potentially, you know, families can still play tennis on that court. There would just be other lines that would be on the ground surface, and then the net might be a little bit different height, but I don't believe it would be too much of a concern for the community. We have a very large pickleball group happening within Tumbler Ridge.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Julik.
Thank you, Mayor. Being one of those pickleball people, I, of course, like the idea, but I don't think we should be sacrificing a tennis court over this at this stage. I don't think this has been thought out or planned out as part of a larger thing, which is what I recalled us discussing before, but kind of surprised to see this here. And no, you can't have a permanent pickleball net and a permanent tennis net on the same stretch, as far as I know. And if you can, it's going to be some multi-function thing that's going to be a lot more than the number written down here. I actually don't think it should be here yet. I think we should be looking at it as a more, what are we going to do with these areas? We have the discussion for the racquetball and squash court and indoor. We have the outdoor tennis courts, that area in general. Can't imagine getting rid of the basketball courts, but I mean, you just have to decide what you're going to do with that whole area. I would therefore move to remove the outdoor tennis court to pickleball conversion from this year's budget.
Seconder. Councillor Noberry, discussion. Councillor Julik.
With that information, I don't know, there seems to be a lot of people interested in pickleball, but I don't know enough. Like, so what I understand from Ms. McKay then is that that we have 2 tennis courts. So one would be tennis, one would be pickleball, which would be basically a net and some lines. My concern actually is it says in this little blurb that addition of outdoor pickleball court, new court in outdoor volleyball location, or remodel one of the existing tennis courts. So I didn't like I don't know where the outdoor volleyball courts are. I just thought we had the beach one outdoors.
That's my understanding. Mr. Orville?
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
Thank you, Council. Yeah, I believe that is the outdoor beach volleyball area.
Follow up? Yep.
So then my concern would be that the amount budgeted would be quite a bit different if we had to, because then, to me, I understand pickleball must need to have a hard surface. Okay, so I will think about that before I vote.
Okay, any more discussion with the motion on the floor? Councillor Hoffman.
I know I'm the problem here, but in the end, I look at a tennis court, and if we had that space and we're not going to have a permanent tennis court, I would look to create 2 pickleball courts. They're significantly smaller than a tennis court. So this idea that we could just simply take these permanent tennis posts out and do some sort of temporary conversion thing, because they are different nets. I think the lines are not the issue. I think it's these permanent posts that would have to be adjustable and permanent. You know, we have a few people in town that we don't necessarily trust with anything temporary out there. And I remember from our earlier discussions, we were not talking about going forward with this at this time. And I would much rather spend the time and come up with a much deeper plan, including pickleball for sure. But giving up a tennis court just on a whim here, I really don't like. I think we need to talk about this a whole lot more.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess my thought is, I think we somewhat gave a direction for staff to find an alternative in regards to pickleball, because that is the new and upcoming thing. I've never played it myself. I'll have to come and watch it and see what it's all about. So I think we gave that direction for staff to come up with an idea, what they thought. I guess my only question to staff would be when we talk about the tennis courts, was the reasoning that we picked that location is the usage of the tennis courts. I just want to get confirmation, Ms. Torval.
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. McKay.
Thank you, Mayor, through the council. No, it wasn't to do with the usage. I think it was just the infrastructure is already there. Like you say, the hard surface, it's enclosed. There's net posts there. Like you say, they may need to be removed and have different posts installed. But it was just because of the location and the area. Had we chosen, like you say, the outdoor beach ball court, then yes, considerably a lot more money would be required.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik?
So I guess what I would then like to know, so 2 questions. Okay, yes, 2 questions. Are the tennis courts used a lot? Do we see a lot of use there? And if not, I don't necessarily have a problem with converting one of the courts to a pickleball court. And my question, if we did do that, what would be the ease of going back? Like, is there a possibility to put in the new post but still keep the holes for the old post? And I'm asking that, I'm actually looking at Councillor Hoffman a bit about that because he plays pickleball, but I'll let Mayor decide who to ask that question to.
Yeah, it'll go to Ms. Torval. But my thing is I'm not sure if staff will be able to answer the usage. It sounded like they'd already tried to answer it. They were unsure of the use. It wasn't the reasoning of the usage, because I'm not sure if we track the tennis ball use. Again, I've never been really down there, but Ms. Torval, 2 questions.
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. McKay if we track the tennis court users?
Thank you, Mayor, through the council. No, we don't track them per se, but you do see people out there. We've put out some old hockey nets because you see the kids out there playing ball hockey. And then, of course, you do see the kids in the basketball area.
And then if we were to convert one tennis court to pickleball, Ms. Torval, the ease of replacing it or switching it back to both tennis if it's not being used by pickleball because that's not where they wanted to play it?
Ms. McKay or Mr. Bradley?
Mayor and council. Yeah, pardon me, we were discussing the tennis courts because A, there's 2 courts. B, it would be just like a gymnasium. You'd have overlying lines. We thought that we could utilize the posts that are already there, perhaps maybe make a modification so that you could put a pickleball net, attach it to that. Of course, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't play pickleball, but I'm sure we can figure out a way to permanently mount new posts if need be. Yeah, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I mean, you guys put stuff in front of us that we've talked about, and we're all unsure of it, the questions that come forward until the debate starts to happen. But I got Councillor Noberry, then Councillor Julik.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So, I'll echo what you said. Thanks, staff, for bringing this forward. We talked about it. This is something we want. And now I'm getting a little bit of cold feet. Just in regards to, we hear from Councillor Hoffman saying, a pickleballer, saying that we may need to resurface that area to meet the needs of pickleball. Because I know and I'm already thinking about the ball that they use, it may interact with the material out there. Does this $3,000 cost, would that,
Cost X?
oh, jeez, thank you.
Sorry, I've done it too. I've done it too.
It did so well. Would the cost, is the cost here, does that include potential change to the surface? If that's not the case, I mean, I'd like to see that cost before we make any other modifications to that area.
Councillor, I'm just going to go to Councillor Hoffman because I know the question was directed to him about the service, but I don't think he said that.
Yeah, that's not, I can't imagine that you would need to resurface. The nature of, think of it as tennis. You can play it on various surfaces, and yes, maybe the spin's different or whatever, but get used to it. If you're playing outside, you're playing with a heavier ball anyways because you don't want it to get blown around. My real concern here is that we're going through a process. We spend X amount of dollars, and for a little bit more, we could have made 2 courts out of it, or we could have done something else. So when I'm just looking at that, I just don't think we've spent the time necessary to make a choice and investment in this way, especially without having a good sense of how many people do use the tennis court. I mean, I don't survey it. I don't drive down that side very often. So if in the summertime they use it, I don't want to take a tennis court away from them, especially if we were going to do something else that incorporated more, maybe not just pickleball, but maybe a tennis wall or whatever it comes down to. And that's why I don't want to be jumping in and doing these sorts of things right now. I want to have the bigger discussion before we do this. And to answer Mr. Bradley, maybe you could use the existing posts. That my concern then would be is how does a person that's coming there to play one game or the other actually convert? Because whatever we're going to do, it's now that court. I just don't think without a newer technology, if you will, that it's going to be a simple change. And every time you add a mechanism, somebody could do something to it and damage it. So I think honestly, if we're picking one over the other, and that's fine. But if we're going to do that, then let's do the right thing with the space that's in front of us.
Thank you. Councillor Noberry, did that answer all your questions? Okay. Councillor Jilek.
So I think at this point, I'm comfortable with switching one. I'm okay that we have one pickleball and one tennis ball court. I would just say that it's one more time that I think we need to maybe sit down and do a recreation plan and maybe see what staff says about maybe trying to track some of the things that we do have, making sure that what we do have is utilized to its fullest. Pickleball's a pretty big deal. It feels to me like this isn't going to be a big change. And if we have one tennis court and one pickleball court, I think that's fine. Plus, I don't know that we have anybody that's going on to whatever, Wimbledon. So if they have to wait a turn to get on that tennis court, I'm okay with that.
So we do have a recreational plan. I'm not sure if it includes pickleball. It may, I'm not sure, but I mean, pickleball's new, but we do have a recreational plan.
should probably read that one.
Ms. Torval, could we just get the motion read back, please?
Yes, Mayor Kukoka, that we remove the outdoor tennis court to pickleball from Schedule G.
Thank you. All in favor to remove? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Any more discussion in regards to Schedule G? Councillor Noxema.
Can we get updated increase to taxation? I think our finance officer was tracking that, and then we could ask at any point where we're at, because we were at about 3.5 increase to taxation when we started this. So to see where we are and if we're comfortable with our capital projects as is, or do we need to be a bit tougher?
Natalie?
Your worship, you're currently at 2.18%.
Thank you. Councillor Noxena?
And this is just for capital projects, correct? This wouldn't include anything else?
Operational or
Yes.
nothing? No.
So are we comfortable sitting there? Do we need to be a bit tougher?
Until we see the whole concept of where we are, whether it's operational and core, that's when you're gonna have to make decisions. The thing coming forward later on in the agenda is the pre-approvals. If those go through, they cannot be pulled back. But until you see the final number, I mean, we haven't seen everything. That's when sometimes you're gonna have to make hard decisions, and the budget's not approved until it's approved. There's still time to pull it back. Councilor Noxena.
That's my main concern, that if we finish this today, we can still come back and say, we are way too high. I don't want to leave things on that we're kind of on the fence about and then have a huge increase of taxes to our residents.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go to staff. My understanding is we can remove, until we get through the pre-approvals, once pre-approval is done, those you cannot pull back. But anything that is not on the pre-approval list, we can. But if there's anything, to me, when we talk about the budget, if there's anything here where, we're not really sure, to me, we should be discussing those right now about removing them, not worrying what the taxation rate's gonna be. To me, we're here to do the best for our residents, the taxpayers. And to me, if there's things that, geez, I'm not sure if we really need to do it this year, that's the stuff we should be discussing, removing today, not even worrying about what the tax implications are. That's my opinion. Councilor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. And to add to what you're saying, we will have an opportunity where we're going to look at tax rates itself, and we'll see how that'll affect things. And that's, I think, the time when, if we see like we're looking at a 4% increase across the board, that's something we can discuss, we can play with, we can adjust, and maybe then we can look at it. But again, I think if we have to wait till the process is finished, then we seeing right now this is going to add 2%. It doesn't exactly equate to a 2% increase of taxes on all classes.
And Mr. Orville, is that correct what I said? I said to come back to staff and then took another question.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Okay, is there any more discussion in regards to Schedule G? Okay, I don't have an issue. I was going to make a comment, and that's in regards to fairgrounds power. As we go further on, I hope I know where we got the information from, and we thank TRDs for supplying the information that they went out and received. I would hope staff is going to confirm that to make sure there is not a cheaper way to do the exact same job. I know we're using the information that was supplied to us in 2022, and I know there's other options out there. I'm not into getting into, I don't have really any questions. I just want to make sure that we're doing the best we can in regards to that one there. And I'm glad to see we're going to move it forward. And again, I already apologize to delegation. It had nothing to do with staffing. That was board to me by the council of 2022, which I sat on, and understanding that we had movement within staff. And that was to me why it didn't get done. It wasn't because staff didn't want to do it. It wasn't the council didn't want to do it. There was a whole bunch of different reasons that we couldn't get it done. So. But I have no issues with it. Okay, if there's nothing else in regards to Schedule G, Schedule H. Okay. Okay. 4.2, 2023 capital pre-approval request. Report dated February 27th, 2023 from the Interim CAO, Director of Corporate Services, requesting pre-approval for selected capital projects. And when we do the recommendations, we'll do one at a time. Councilor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. That council pre-approves the lagoon blower capital project for the 2023 budget year at a, no.
Pretty good, bud. Pretty good, Councilor Nobre. Seconder, please. Councilor Noxana. Discussion. Councilor Julik.
I was just going to move the next one, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I seen you up there. I'll leave you later on. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Recommendation number 2, Councilor Julik.
That council pre-approves the Bobcat Toolcat capital project for the 2023 budget year.
Seconder? I'll second that. Sorry. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. That council pre-approves the fire prevention inspection vehicle for the 2023 budget year.
Seconder? Councilor Dussault? Discussion? Okay, I'm gonna make a comment again, I apologize, but is there a cheaper way of doing this instead of making it I read through the report, instead of having it with, for able to respond with lights or having sirens, minimal lights, it says in the report, there's, to me, other options that we could look at, just buying another vehicle for Public Works, a 250 Ford F-250, I guess they call them, sorry. And having it that it's the fire departments at any time they need it. And if it's not needed for the fire department, then the Public Works can also use it. It becomes a multi-purpose vehicle instead of a one-stage vehicle. I'm not sure what council thinks of that. Councilor Noxana?
I've already spoken about the truck, and I'm definitely in favor of finding any alternative to just something to lower this cost a bit.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I won't be supporting the motion on the floor, and that's the reasoning. I think there's other options out there that, and it's not about the cheaper version, but it's having a vehicle that is multi-purpose. When, you know, we have a vehicle that, I understand the fire department came forward and, or sorry, staff came forward, should be careful what I say there, and suggested how they use the staff/mayor and council vehicle 63 times. If it's not being used, it actually just sits in the parking lot. Understanding, yeah, it's not using, we're not using mileage and everything else on it, but vehicles still depreciate and there's still issues when they just sit there. And that's my concern, so that's why I threw it out there. I'm not sure what councilor thinks. I know we've heard from one. The rest of the council's good. I'll call the question. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Second motion, or number 4 motion, recommendation. Councilor Dussault?
That council pre-approves the Monkman RV Park water line repair for 2023 budget year.
Seconder. Councilor Clickash. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Number 5. Recommendation, please. Councilor Clickash. Sorry, nobody was putting their hand up, so I just went with one. Sorry. It was number 5.
Yeah, the municipal spreader, that, I don't know.
Okay, no problem. Councilor Dussault.
Council pre-approves the municipal spreader pre-approved request for the 2023 budget year.
Seconder. Councilor Noberry. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Number 7, or sorry, 6. Getting ahead, Councilor Noberry.
The council pre-approves the golf course valve replacement.
Seconder. Councilor Dussault. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Number 7, Councilor Noberry.
The council pre-approves the aquatic center main pool grouting.
Seconder. Councilor Hoffman. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Councilor Clickash. There was one that we discussed earlier. Sheets. In regards to dehumidifier, did you want to put that as a pre-approval? Did you want to read it out, or?
Council approve the community center dehumidifier system for the pool.
For pre-approval in 2023?
Yep.
Seconder, Councilor Dussault. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Ms. Torval, I understand one has come off here as a pre-approval. How can we move that forward, send it back to staff, asking for a different concept? Or just leave it and you guys will bring something? Thank you. I just didn't want it being left out. Sorry, I forgot to turn your mic. If you're good,
Yeah, we're good.
okay, because if not, I'll prepare, so. Okay. 4.3, budget meeting follow-up, report dated February 27th, 2023, from the Interim CAO, Director of Corporate Services regarding budget meeting follow-up for information or discussion. Council's wishes. Council, would you like?
Before I make a motion, I'd like to clarify, the items that are in 4.3, a lot of them align with a lot of the things that we just talked about. There are some things on that that are not in the that were not in 4.1. So does that mean that the information just means it's information and it's not, like, it's not part of our budget?
If you, no, I think there'll be some things that were maybe moved into capital, but if there's anything we want to discuss, just move it for discussion, and, or if there's any questions you may have. My apologies. Councillor Julik,
Okay, that council receives the report for discussion.
seconder. Councillor Dussault, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Julik.
Sorry, let me,
And I'm just going to go to staff because maybe I miscommunicated that. So just in regards to that, and I understand she asked a question, but it's hard if it's not for discussion to ask the information from staff. In regards to 4.3, is there any items in here that are budget implications or they've been removed? Like I understand some of it, like the infield replacement was removed by staff because they want to try a piece of equipment that is yet to arrive within the district. So Councillor Julik's question was, is there anything in here in this part that is in the budget?
Items from.
Natalie?
Yeah, Your Worship, items that are in there that staff have recommended not proceeding with an expense are not included in the budget at this point in time.
Okay, so my apologies, I gave you wrong information.
I'm okay then. I just wanted, like, there's some stuff in there, but if none of them have a budget implication at this point, I'm fine to receive it for information.
Okay, is there any more discussion? So some of it did, like the Bobcat was in there and the sea can's in there for storage options. Okay, does anybody want to discuss 4.3? Okay. Okay, now I got too many sheets in front of me. Find which one I'm at. Notice the motion. Thanks, Councilor Norbury. Okay, question and answer period. And before we go to Ms. Torval, at our last budget meeting, I apologize to the residents of Tumbler Ridge. There was a resident that had sent in a question to Ms. Torval, and I forgot that step within our agenda. So I'm going to read out the question, and it's from resident Joanne Kirby. With a waiting list for this cart storage at the golf course, has council discussed moving the golf cart storage building and enlarging it, making more room for camping and lookout options where building is now? Existing cement pad would work to install gazebo. It has power. Have had a lot of interest that the lookout would be a great place for wedding events. So I guess anybody can answer it. I'll give my first thoughts on that. I think we've discussed it. There was discussion in regards to a gazebo being built on the outside. I know we have always, I guess previous council, we thought about moving it, talked about lifting it up and moving it. I think there's a huge concern when we try to move that building. Yes, it has power, but it also has heat. And I think there's a big concern trying to move it with the cost of moving it. I know there was discussion around council about more storage cart area. And I think that's worth probably looking at to see what the viability of building another one. And I think that answers to me that, unless other council has some input in their opinion of it. Okay. I won't forget this time. Is there any questions, Ms. Dorval? Oh, right on. And then I threw my papers. We're just looking for adjournment. Take a motion to adjourn. Council Norbury? Seconder? Council Clickash? All in favor? Carried.